All right. Today I'll be reacting to the entire story of Rick and Morty. Shit, let me turn myself down a bit. About like 35. Let's do 35. You guys should be able to hear me. Hold on, I'm checking. You guys should be able to hear me. Good. Anyway, the entire story of Rick and Morty by Jar Tunes. If you haven't, check them out. They tell entire stories, and we can react to more. Like they got the entire story right here, the entire story of Adventure Time. You know what I'm saying? It's they're pretty cool, and it tells you it's like. Cause me, you know what I'm saying? Like I've grown up watching these shows, but I never actually connected them all. Like I grew up watching like Adventure Time, but I didn't watch every fucking episode. But like it's just cool to see how he puts it all together. You know what I'm saying? But he also does it. You know what I'm saying? But today we got Rick and Morty. I could react to more if you guys want me to. Let me know. But we could do But right now, today we're doing Rick and Morty. Which I'm pretty. It's a hit show. Everyone loves it. At
Rick
least I do.
and
Should I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, let's get started. Enough yapping.
Morty. You know what it is? Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon struck gold in the early 2000s by concocting this little animated masterpiece about a crazy multiverse hopping grandpa and his grandson, to the point where we're sitting here today with a whopping 7 seasons to cover. In case you don't know, this show is as insane as it is emotional, and is filled with lore and secrets in nearly every frame. Set across various dimensions and infinite realities, the show introduces characters as peculiar as they are endearing.
Oh, come on, man.
Wrapping everything up in a blend of sci-fi twists and a very interesting sense of humor. So, enough talk. Let's begin. But first, a little context. This is Rick, better known as Rick C-137 Earth Dimension. He's a mad scientist with a slight drinking issue.
And I gotta pause the video here. Hold on. Make sure I'm recording, bro. I am. Alright, and I've gotta pause the video here just to say this, right? Rick and Morty, I hope it's a show that goes on for 20 seasons like Family Guy, like fucking The Simpsons, because it can. It's so unique in a sense. Um and like because you don't have anything like it in it, like an adult animation like the way it is. You don't have anything like it. And the only thing I think of like is in Family Guy is when they time travel, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe when they do some kind of crossover. But with Rick and Morty, you know that like you don't actually know what the setting's gonna be. In those shows, like you basically know the setting. It's gonna take place in like Quahog, or it's gonna take place like in general. You know the places you're gonna see for the most part in those shows. And Rick and Morty, you don't know who's you don't know who's gonna be in there. You don't know who's gonna be you don't know what the adventure is gonna be. It's just a unique ass show, and it's all like relative to science and everything. It's just so fucking cool. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to say that yeah, I hope it gets like 20 seasons or goes on forever. Hell. But it's a good series, and it's I don't know, it's legit. So anyway, back to the video. Enough yapping.
Yeah!
He's Beth's father, Morty and Summer's maternal grandfather, and Jerry's father-in-law. Rick has spent his life traveling between dimensions, time, and the universe, making tons of friends and enemies along the way. Morty Smith, Beth and Jerry's son, is an ordinary boy, shy, clumsy, and pretty unlucky when it comes to girls, or really any form of a social life. To spice up his life a bit, he frequently joins Rick on his crazy adventures, and thanks to his low intellectual level, Morty becomes the perfect companion. Then we have Beth, Rick's daughter and Jerry's wife. Beth is a very intelligent and responsible person, probably more so than any of her other family members. While she practices as a horse surgeon, her unfulfilled dream was to become a surgeon for humans. As well as that, her married life has more downs than ups, as she's almost always at odds with Jerry. Speak of the devil, here's Jerry Smith.
I'm not gonna lie, like I've watched the whole series and everything. But yeah, damn, that is true, and they do have like a messed up marriage. Not gonna lie.
It's pretty useless and easy to manipulate, and that's why Rick hates him. Despite his efforts to improve, Jerry is not taken seriously by the family. But as the series goes on, we may start to see that change.
I was gonna say,
Finally, we have Summer Smith, Morty's older sister. Truthfully, she's just a basic girl, obsessed with being popular.
Yo,
Summer,
he just called Summer a basic girl. Damn. And that's Loki, her friend too. I forgot. I don't mean to spoil anything, but this is her friend. I forgot from like a random episode, and like she was in a few episodes. That's funny as hell.
Is overly jealous of Morty due to the fact that Rick spends so much more time with him. Although on rare occasions, Summer also joins her grandfather's adventures. Now we're all set to start on this journey. So grab your popcorn and let's dive into the adventure. To start, we have episode number 1, Pilot. Rick, who is hammered to the core, enters Morty's room in the middle of the night to tell him that
And
he
this
is
shit, like, because I remember watching this episode, I was like, dude, who does that? Who just, like, walks into their grandson's room at, like, whatever time, literally spilling, like, beer or whatever scientific chemical drink this is that probably isn't beer. It's some shit that Rick probably made in his lab. You know what I'm saying? Who does this, like, on a random night? Like, damn, dude. Like, why not just go on an adventure by yourself? Like, why include Morty? Like, this shit's just so funny.
a surprise for him. Rick tells Morty that he's created a bomb. You know, to start everything from scratch. Something like a Big Bang 2.0. Morty panics, to which Rick tries to comfort him by telling Morty that first they'll go to find Jessica, his crush, since every atom needs his Eve. But Morty gets furious and forces Rick to land the ship. Morty can't let this world he loves so much get destroyed by his grandpa. That would be soul-shattering. And that's your cold open. Not even 5 minutes in, and the world has been threatened. Lovely. The next day, during breakfast, Morty is extremely sleepy, as he didn't rest well after yesterday's adventure. Beth and Jerry are worried about this.
Bruh, drink a monster. You'll be good, Morty. Damn. I was like 13, 14, not going. Well, I never went to sleep, but I knew kids that didn't go to sleep and shit and would just drink monster to stay up throughout the next day because they were on the game all night. You know, one of my friends, he playing fucking Call of Duty all night. Shit was crazy, and his mom would let him. Crazy.
Especially Jerry, because how will Morty do well in school if he's always tired? Jerry and Rick argue, since Rick doesn't see what's the problem. For him, school is just a waste of time. At school, Morty's being bullied by this guy, Frank, when out of nowhere, Rick shows up to freeze him, taking Morty on a mission. Meanwhile, Jerry goes to Beth's work to tell her that they should send his father to a nursing home.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers?
Premium coming soon,
chill,
bro.
Guys, just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension, and it basically blocks ads.
Let's be honest, Jerry just wants to get rid of Rick ASAP. Continuing with the duo, Rick opens a portal in the middle of a random alley to a super colorful, oddly shaped world, Dimension 35C.
What is this place? It's Dimension 35C.
Rick explains to Morty that they need to find the mega seeds from the mega trees to be able to continue with his research, and so they get to searching. After a while, Rick finally finds the mega trees. Rick gives Morty some grappling shoes, so he safely makes his way down where the trees are. But Morty doesn't turn them on and falls, breaking not one, but both of his legs. Rick goes to see if Morty's okay,
was fucked up.
but Morty is clearly in pain. No worries. Rick opens a portal to another dimension.
That was fucked up because Morty was screaming for like a minute. Like, I remember he was screaming his ass off, and that was really hurt, like falling down and breaking both your legs, bro.
To bring a medicine that makes his broken legs heal instantly. Okay, that's sick. If only he didn't take half a century to look for that medicine. His poor grandson was left writhing in agony until he got back. Morty is collecting the mega seeds when Rick tells him that they have a little problem. His interdimensional portal device has no charge left, which means they will have to return using interdimensional customs. In short, Morty will have to hide the mega seeds.
I need you to put them way up inside your butthole, Morty.
Well, once in the interdimensional customs, Rick and Morty discover that the insect-like security guards have a new machine that detects stuff all the way up someone's butt. Yeah, they're in big trouble. Rick and Morty run to escape the guards and manage to find a portal. But Rick has to enter the coordinates of their home dimension, so he asks Morty to cover him and hands him a gun. While Morty does the dirty work, Rick manages to enter the code as they escape through the portal, which takes them directly to the school. At school, Rick and Morty meet Principal Vagina, no relation, who is with Jerry and Beth talking about Morty skipping classes. Seeing this, Jerry decides that it's best for Rick to go to the nursing home and prevent this from happening again. As they pack everything up for Rick to move out, Beth tells him that she's very disappointed in him for making her son miss school, knowing that Morty is the last child that needs to be missing classes. Rick doesn't understand what the fuss is about. He knows Morty is smart, and proves it by asking him things like the square root of pi, or the first law of thermodynamics, to which Morty, surprisingly, answers correctly. Rick claims that knowledge is acquired through experiences, and not necessarily in school. The perfect speech that convinces Jerry and Beth to allow Rick to stay. However, Morty's intelligence is only a side effect of the mega seeds dissolving in his butt.
A fucking troll.
Anyway, Rick is happy because they will be able to continue going on more adventures together. Just Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty forever and
then, he's like a mad scientist,
never.
bro. Look at him. While his grandson's like, who does that? His grandson's down there passing out in agony, bro, in pain. Like, help Morty, bro. Damn.
Burn for over 100 years, Rick and Morty, some things.
Next up, let's talk about episode 6, Rick Potion number 9. It's the annual flu season dance at school.
Too.
Okay, what an original name. Annual flu season. Morty tries to talk to Jessica, but he doesn't succeed. One, because he's very shy, and two, because Brad interrupts him by telling Morty that there's no chance that Jessica will notice someone like him. Oof, that's gotta hurt. Back at home, Morty shares his concerns with Jerry, who offers advice using the same strategies he once applied with Beth. But Jerry's interrupted by Rick, who tells Morty not to follow his father's steps if he doesn't want to end up getting a girl pregnant and forcibly marrying her. So that after a few years of his marriage will hang on by a thread. Yeef. Honesty above all, right? Well, Rick continues by stating that love does not exist. It's a chemical reaction. After hearing this, Morty asks Rick if he can make him a potion, to win over Jessica. And after arguing for a while, Rick accepts. Morty's happy. However, he asks Rick if there's any side effects, just to be sure. Luckily, to Rick's knowledge, there shouldn't be any side effects to worry about, unless she has the flu. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, Jerry seeks reassurance from Beth about her love for him, but Beth is too busy to talk with him. At the dance, Morty uses the potion on Jessica, and it works without a problem. Or at least he thought so, because sure enough, she has the flu. The virus causes the potion to spread every time she coughs. Everyone loves Morty now. Rick soon realizes he forgot to mention this to Morty, and goes to check on him, just in time to rescue him from all of his admirers. On the ship, Rick rushes to make another potion to fix everything and spreads it all around, but things don't go well, because everyone transforms into mutant mantises. What a freak show! Suddenly,
this episode was kind of freaky to me at first. Like when I first watched it, it was kind of weird, not gonna lie.
Everyone undergoes a horrific transformation, except Jerry, Beth, and Summer for some unknown reason. Anyway, Rick and Morty go to a safe place to craft a potion again, to make everything go back to normal. Meanwhile, Beth is in trouble, as her assistant David has just turned into a mutant mantis. Luckily for her, Jerry swoops in to save the day.
I'm Mr. Crowbar, and this is my friend, who is also a crowbar.
Fucking stupid.
Oh, sweet. At least the entire monster transformation thingy seems to have fixed their relationship. Back in the city, Rick and Morty spread the new potion, and it doesn't work. In fact, now everything is worse. Everyone's all Cronenberged. Rick and Morty argue, to which Morty puts all the blame on Rick. It tells him that he has to find a new way to fix everything. Rick knows that there's a way to make everything go back to normal. Or, well, a relative way to do it. Rick and Morty open a portal to enter another dimension, where they find themselves dead after an experiment gone wrong. Morty freaks out, to which Rick tries to calm him down, explaining that there are an infinite number of alternate realities, and that this is just one of them. Basically, Rick's plan is to slip into the place of...
And I was gonna say, this is crazy because... And so this is why, like, I'd have, like, I could never be like Rick. Like, I could never be like this scientist who has this multi-dimension travel or multiverse travel, because then you just devalue life, basically. Like, you gotta think, he just left his daughter, his son-in-law, and, like, his granddaughter. Like, I mean, if you watch the whole series, they're technically not, like, this Rick's granddaughter, like, family, but it still kind of is, dude, in a sense. And it's, like, fucked up that he just, like, his logic behind it, and, like, how replaceable people are, how like replaceable life is, just because there's an infinite amount. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that still has to matter. Like, you can't just say, oh, because there's an infinite amount, none of their lives matters, when it does, bruh. Like, you can't tell me it doesn't. So I don't know. That's like that's like one thought I've had too. Like, I couldn't be. I have it just be like it'd be mind boggling to me. Like, just being like him, I guess.
Of their dead selves in that reality, and continue with their lives as if nothing actually happened. Well, now, tell me if that didn't absolutely blow your mind. That is some
And
clear...
then for Morty, he's like a teenage kid, bro. Imagine how traumatized that is for him, bro. Like, I couldn't imagine that. Try to imagine that, bro. Like, you couldn't.
really heavy stuff. The episode ends looking at a clearly traumatized Morty. Let's have a look at episode 8, Ricksty Minutes, which begins with Rick, Morty, Summer, Beth, and Jerry watching television, when Rick decides to improve the situation by installing his own cable box, capable of receiving television across infinite dimensions. The shows that appear in these alternate realities are as crazy as they're random, but everyone seems to enjoy them. Rick is changing the channels to show all the infinite possibilities, when suddenly, they come across a channel where Jerry is a celebrity. Jerry asks Rick to stop, as he wants to see how successful his life is in one of this alternate realities. Rick finds it boring, because he wants to continue watching the other shows. I mean, who wants to narcissistically obsess about their alternate selves? Well, you guessed it. The whole family is more interested in seeing what their lives look like in their alternate realities than continuing to watch more shows. Rick gives them a pair of virtual reality glasses that...
I'm not gonna lie, I'd be kind of curious too. That's just me though. Like, I don't know. Would you guys be curious? Let me know in the comments. Would you guys be curious about like learning about your alternate lives type shit if you knew it was real? Like, if you knew it was happening type shit? I don't know.
allows them to continue watching their alternate realities, while he continues watching television with Morty. The first to use the glasses is Jerry, who sees himself enjoying the company of Johnny Depp. On the other hand, Beth sees herself performing surgery on humans and not on horses. And finally, Summer can't see anything. If her parents achieve their dreams, that means that there's a big chance that she was never born.
That came out wrong. That came out very wrong.
YouTube Premium coming soon, bruh.
Gives you the freedom to tell your story. With a
After trying for a while, the only thing Summer sees herself playing is board games with her parents. Wow, that's pretty fun. While Rick and Morty are having a blast watching the TV shows, Jerry, Summer, and Beth start an argument. They start to question if marrying due to pregnancy was the best decision. If they had never met, their lives would have been so much better. Summer gets angry because it's obvious that her family is forced to be together and decides that she will leave the house. Jerry and Beth are left talking about what just happened and realize that they need to take some time for themselves, to process everything. Meanwhile, Morty talks to Summer. And after a deep talk about how life is not perfect, Morty manages to convince her to stay. There's nothing better than a chat between siblings. Morty, Summer, and Jerry return to continue watching television with Rick, while Beth decides to stay in the kitchen with the virtual reality glasses, drinking wine. When suddenly, both Beth and the others see how in one of the alternate realities, she and Jerry end up choosing each other, proving that despite everything, they always end up together. Everyone is amazed, especially Jerry and Beth, who run in to hug each other. I guess after all, divorce is off the table. In episode number 10, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind, Rick and the family are enjoying breakfast together when out of nowhere, 3 Ricks from alternate dimensions appear and take him away. Along with Morty, of course. Rick and Morty are taken to the Citadel, a place that is full of Ricks and Mortys from other dimensions and timelines. That sounds kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
In this place, Earth Rick C-137, our Rick is declared guilty for the crime of murdering 27 other Ricks. Rick argues by stating that he had nothing to do with those deaths.
You wanted to be safe from the government, so you became a stupid government.
But no one believes him.
I always thought that part was funny as hell to me. That I don't know. That always made me chuckle and laugh, bro.
And Rick is sentenced to the Machine of Unspeakable Doom, a machine that swaps your conscious and unconscious minds. Rick punches another Rick and yells at Morty to run while he opens multiple portals, and after running through several dimensions, they manage to escape. Rick and Morty are hiding in a restaurant, in a dimension where the people are the furniture, and the furniture are the people. When Rick discovers a signal in his portal gun that reveals the location of the real murderer, Rick and Morty arrive at the place, which, by the way, is full of Mortys being tortured. That creates a kind of protection that makes it possible to hide from any Rick.
That's fucked up too,
Sounds crazy.
Like learning
doesn't
that,
it?
like that fact.
Let me explain. The Ricks have a distinctive brainwave.
Yeah.
When they're with a Morty, the genius waves get canceled by their dumb Morty waves. In short, the Mortys act like camouflage to Ricks. Meanwhile, at the Smith house, which by the way is full of Ricks, Jerry finds a Rick who isn't as bad as the others, and they start a friendship. Back at the place where the real killer is, Rick and Morty argue for a while, as Morty finds it horrible that the Ricks only use the Mortys for their own convenience, treating them as if they were worthless. During their dispute, though, the duo are caught by the real murderer, Evil Rick and Evil Morty. Morty is locked up with other Mortys while Rick is tied to a chair.
Don't be ridiculous, Morty. Will you stop saying that?
Because Evil Rick's plan is to download all the content of his brain and kill him. Once in his cell, Morty notices that the other Mortys have surrendered against the Ricks. Morty decides to give a motivational speech to encourage them to rebel against the Ricks, and it works. This is what I call the beginning of the Morty Revolution. All hail the one true Morty! Morty saves Rick from Evil Rick and calls the other Ricks to tell them that they have found the real killer, who is subsequently killed by the other Mortys. Earth Rick C-137 is finally declared innocent, and everything seems to return to normal. But wait a minute. The Ricks realize that Evil Rick wasn't actually evil, he was controlled by someone else. But who? Get this. He was
Evil
controlled
Morty.
by
He's a
his
badass,
Morty
bro.
all along. Now that is a plot twist. Episode 11, Rixie Business, begins with Jerry and Beth leaving for a Titanic-themed getaway. Beth leaves Rick in charge and tells him that if anything happens to the house or the kids, she won't let Morty go with him on any more adventures. This is pretty serious stuff. However, as soon as Beth and Jerry leave, Summer and Rick throw a super crazy party. Morty's going crazy, trying to make sure no one makes a mess, to which Rick tells him to relax and enjoy the party. But Morty is constantly on edge. He's very worried. Well, until he sees Jessica. The party continues, and everything seems to be going well. Rick's meeting up with his old friends like Squanchy, Slow Mobius, and Bird Person, and Summer's as popular as ever. Heck, even Morty is alone with Jessica in the garage and actually making conversation, until he accidentally trips and knocks down one of Rick's devices, which causes the entire house to be transported to another dimension.
Damn.
However, the only one who seems to care is Morty. Rick and Summer send Morty along with Aberdolf Linkler, one of Rick's failed experiments, and Nancy, one of Summer's friends, to go get some crystals.
See, like this is so random, but it's so fucking cool because it's like they're on some random planet just partying. But that sounds like, not gonna lie, as long as like people could live and like party there, like we could breathe there, I'd be down to have like a party on another planet for like a few minutes. Maybe, like it freaked me out after a bit, but like maybe just to experience it. You know what I'm saying? Just to like be like, damn, okay, that's what it's like. Maybe I do that, but I'm saying it's cool.
To get everything back to the way it was, while they continue enjoying the party. Upon finding the crystals, Morty, Aberdolf Linkler, and Nancy are attacked by a beast, who ends up killing Linkler. Morty and Nancy return to the party with the crystals and tell everyone what happened, but no one seems to care.
And these babies just saved this lame ass.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Rick takes the crystals and the party continues. Morty soon realizes that the crystals were never meant to help them return to their dimension and gets angry at Rick, ending the party. What a buzzkill. Meanwhile, Jerry is enjoying his visit to the Titanic, but without Beth, since she doesn't seem to be interested in anything. Until things get weird. Jerry is harassed by a crazy Titanic fan who wants to recreate the scene where Rose and Jack are in the car. You know which scene. But luckily, he's rescued by Beth. Well, I think she really wanted the full experience. Back in their dimension, Bird Person randomly tells Morty that the reason why Rick drinks so much is because he's always in constant pain. After hearing this, Morty knows he can't stop going on more adventures with Rick, so he rushes to tell them that they have to clean the house, since Beth and Jerry are about to arrive. But it's impossible to clean everything in such a short time, so Rick uses one of his inventions to freeze time. With this, Rick, Morty, and Summer have all the time in the world to leave the house spotless, and to enjoy other things too, like spending time together. Let's move on to the second season. Episode 1, A Rickle in Time. It's been 6 months since Rick froze time so they could clean the house. Yeah, you heard that right, 6 whole months. And, it's time to bring things back to normal. Rick unfreezes time. There's a small problem.
That's what I'm saying, freezing time. Imagine freezing time for 6 months, bro. Like, how do you, I don't know, so if you froze time, how do you keep track of time? Like, because you froze time, so that's what I'm saying, it'd always be a daytime out. So how do you know how long you froze time for if you froze time? Because time would stop technically, right? That's what I'm saying. See, this is the kind of loopholes the show gets me in. It's hard to like explain to someone, dude.
Their time is fractured. Somehow, Morty and Summer create a feedback loop of uncertainty that split the reality into 2 equally possible impossibilities.
Right, and I'm glad, because there would be consequences to it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people just think it'd be as simple as just boom, freezing time. I feel like there'd be like more like consequences to that. Not just like, it wouldn't be as simple as people think. Like, oh, just freezing time for 6 months is okay. Then we just return it to normal. No, like, I'm glad they put this shit in. Like, there would have to be some kind of like content, like I don't know.
Rick, Morty, and Summer are not on any timeline. They're lost in a timeless oblivion. They only have 4 hours to fix the problem. Otherwise, it will be as if they have never existed at all. Rick uses some crystals to make everything go back to normal, but something goes wrong. Morty and Summer's uncertainty prevents the fusion from working. Rick deduces that the reason for his uncertainty is because they both want to be Grandpa's favorite. After arguing for a while, Rick tries again.
I know what I'm saying. Premium coming soon, man.
I got you 3 in a row.
But Morty tells him something that now makes Rick uncertain. The time fusion fails again, and Rick thinks it's because it's his other self wants to kill him in order to fix the problem. Suddenly, a 4th-dimensional being appears, and after scolding Rick for trying to fix time with just a crystal, he gives the trio time-stabilizing collars that fuse correctly all the realities, making everything return to normal. However, since Rick obtained those crystals illegally,
You stole a time-freezing crystal from testicle monsters?
everyone will have to go to the time prison for eternity.
Oh,
Obviously,
hell
Rick isn't
no.
going to let that happen. So he fights the being and makes Summer and Morty take off their necklaces, causing reality to split 64 more times. After getting rid of the being, Rick, Morty, and Summer try to put the necklaces back on, as they must return to normal as soon as possible, since time is falling apart. But there's a problem. The collars are broken. That means Rick needs to repair them in each reality for this to work. Once again, they try them, but only Summer manages to return. However, after a distressing moment, Rick and Morty do it too. Whew, that was a close one.
Right, yeah.
Next up is episode 3.
I remember Rick barely got away on some barely got lucky type shit.
Autoerotic assimilation, which begins with Rick, Morty, and Summer traveling through space when out of nowhere, they receive a distress signal from an alien ship. Rick is obviously heading to the location, even though he knows it will probably be a deadly trap. Upon arrival, they discover that all the ship's crew are alive, but they're asking for help. Apparently, their planet was taken over by some kind of entity that absorbs minds. As the crew tries to explain this to the trio, their minds are also attacked by the entity, who reveals itself to be Unity, an old flame of Rick's. Back on the planet, Unity and Rick talk for a while, to catch up with their lives. Meanwhile, Jerry is in the garage looking for some things
Like,
when
that's
Beth
what I'm saying. What is this shit? Like, what? Like, no other show is like this. Like, this shit is, every episode blows your mind, bro. Man.
interrupts him, telling him that it's not a good idea to be there, since it's Rick's workspace. Jerry argues with Beth, stating that it's his house and he can do whatever he wants, when they get interrupted by some strange noises coming from a door on the floor. Jerry decides to go down to see what the noise is about, and of course, Beth follows him. Back on the planet, Rick and Unity are having an amazing time together when they're interrupted by Beta 7, an ally of Unity who's trying to pursue more than a professional relationship with Unity. You know what I mean?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Beta 7.
However, his awkward efforts only make Rick scoff at him, causing him to leave. Meanwhile, Summer finds it unusual that Unity controls an entire planet, so she tries to start a revolution, which doesn't go as expected. Everyone begins to get sick while gaining back their consciousness. Soon, Summer realizes that everyone has gone crazy, and they just started a war. Back on planet Earth, Jerry and Beth argue when they discover a chained alien. Jerry tells Beth that Rick is a monster, while Beth tries to defend his actions as there must be a reason behind it. Summer and Morty are worried about Unity, since clearly something's going wrong with her. She's losing power, and it's all because of Rick. Summer believes their relationship is toxic, and it's better for them not to be together.
No, I think Unity's great and you're a horrible influence on it.
Meanwhile, Jerry and Beth continue arguing over the alien, when it suddenly breaks free of its chains. It turns out that his name is Blim Blam, and he is a Korblakian, an alien who eats babies and is sick. He's on Earth because Rick was healing him to sell him. However, Blim Blam is done with humans after meeting Jerry and Beth, stating he would never return to this planet because it's full of crazy people with serious marital problems. Back with Rick, Unity decides to leave him, as it's the best for both of them. Rick is sad, but he accepts it, or at least he tries to. Alright, episode number 4, Total Recall, begins with the entire family having breakfast with Uncle Steve, Jerry's brother. However, when Rick enters
who the fuck is Uncle Steve?
the room, he has no idea who Steve is. The family's surprised by Rick's cluelessness, though. Uncle Steve has been living with them for over a year. Rick knows it's not true, and shoots him in the head. Turns out that Steve is an alien parasite that embeds himself in memories. Rick tells the family that there must be more of them out there, so they will have to get rid of them as quickly as possible before they spread to the outside world. Rick explains that there must be only 6 of them in the house. Rick, Morty, Summer, Jerry, Beth, and of course, Mr. Poopy Butthole. But if for some reason there are 7, well, that means that somebody's not real. However, it's difficult to distinguish who's real and who's not, so no one can trust their memories. Rick tells the family to not flash back to their memories, since that's how they attract parasites. But they can't restrain themselves from bringing back memories. Each time they reminisce, there are more and more parasites in the house.
Random, yo.
It's past my bedtime. Naughty never past bedtime land.
After a while, 10 people have filled up the house, but no one remembers who's real and who's not. They're in big trouble. The number continues to increase, and Rick knows that they're gonna have to start cleaning the house of these parasites, as the situation is already getting out of control. The problem is that no one is totally sure who the parasites are, so they all start playing speculating against one another. The only one who tries to do something is Rick, but soon everyone turns against him. Everyone believes that Rick is the parasite. Rick is escorted to the garage, while Morty points a gun at him. But soon, Morty realizes that Rick is real, since parasites can only show pleasant memories. And while Rick and Morty have many bad memories together. Rick and Morty return together to where the others are, armed with weapons, and explain that parasites are those with whom they only share good memories.
She's real. She's my bitch of a sister.
That was funny.
And the action
When they
begins.
see that was hilarious.
Let's exterminate parasites. Eventually, all the parasites are destroyed, and the family is able to sit down to have dinner, along with Mr. Poopy Butthole. However, Beth suspects him, so she shoots, and no. Contrary to what you may have thought, Mr. Poopy Butthole is not a parasite. He's a cherished family friend, damn it. Let's have a look at episode 6. The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Rick, Morty, and Summer are leaving the movie theater when they decide to go get some ice cream, but the ship won't turn on. Apparently, there's something wrong with the microverse battery. So Rick and Morty go in to see what happened, while Summer is left in charge of taking care of the ship. Once inside, Morty realizes that it's not just a normal battery. There's a whole planet inside of it. In short, Rick has created an entire planet solely dedicated to producing power for him. Morty soon becomes against this, as he thinks it's essentially slavery. However, Rick tells him that this is
Sometimes I think this is like what Earth is, bruh. That's for real. I think it is. People just working for something else, bro. Man, the way the corporate world is, man, I'm not even lying,
How
man.
society
For real.
works. It turns out that Rick tricked the aliens who live in this microverse into being able to obtain electricity through Google boxes. Boxes that work by being
least they have
constantly
fun at
stepped
work.
on.
Shit.
Two real aliens walking through here.
Rick talks to the president of the planet as he believes that they have had problems generating electricity. However, the president is happy to inform him that they have evolved, thanks to the brilliant scientist EJIZZLE2000, who made Google boxes obsolete. It turns out that this scientist has made the same thing as Rick, a miniverse to obtain electricity. Rick is furious because he thinks his invention is unethical. Wow, talk about being a hypocrite. Meanwhile,
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? The lightweight moisturization of Old Spice lotion is like treating your skin to a glamorous vacation.
Summer's not having a very good time. When Rick left, he put the ship in Keep Summer Safe mode. And well, the ship is protecting her, or rather, overprotecting her, since it's killing or hurting anyone who tries to get close. Back in the miniverse, Rick is looking for another scientist to rebel against Zeep. He thinks that if the people in the miniverse stop making energy for the people in the microverse, that will force them to return to the Google boxes, and Rick's will be able to have energy again. Brilliant, isn't it? It's when Rick and Zepp meet Kyle, a miniverse scientist who created something very similar to what Rick and Zepp created, only he calls it by a different name, the Teenyverse. Wow, seems like the cycle never stops. Oh wait, it does, since Kyle realizes this and decides to end the cycle by destroying his ship with him inside it. After this, Rick and Morty and Zepp are trapped in the middle of what appears to be a jungle, and after several months of fighting, they finally decide to work together to get out of there and return to the microverse. Once in the microverse, Rick, Morty, and Zepp try to get to Rick's ship as soon as possible, as Zepp plans to destroy it and Rick and Morty want to escape from this place. Rick and Morty manage to get there first and return to Summer. Once on the ship, Rick tries to turn it on. However, Morty thinks that the battery must be dead, but the ship turns on. Zepp knew that the only way to save the miniverse from Rick was to work for him, so everyone in the miniverse goes back to using the Google boxes. Anyways, finally, Rick, Morty, and Summer can go buy the ice cream they wanted so much. Next up, Episode 10, The Wedding Squanch.
Either work for me or be gone, bro. That's messed up, but that's how shit
Rick,
is.
Morty, Summer, Beth, and Jerry have just been invited to the wedding. Or rather, to Bird Person's mate melding ceremony with Tammy, Summer's friend, which will take place on planet Squanch. Yeah, apparently they met at that party at the end of Season 1. Good for them. The whole family's happy about the news, except for Rick, who claims that weddings are just funerals with cakes. Who broke this man's heart? At the ceremony, while the family goes to socialize with the other guests, Rick goes straight to the bar. It's more than clear that he doesn't want to be there. Morty tries to talk to him by saying that not everything is as bad as Rick thinks, but he couldn't change Rick's mind. Or maybe he could, since Rick gives a toast for the newlyweds, which impressively turns out very well. However, the happiness doesn't last, as Tammy reveals that she's actually a deep cover agent for the Galactic Federation, which is out searching for a group of wanted criminals, referring to Rick and all the other guests, including Bird Person. Everyone panics, and as chaos breaks out, Tammy kills Bird Person. Rick confronts her because she just killed his best friend. However, Squanchy stops him by telling Rick that it's better to get his family to safety first. Once on
I'm just like shocked right now because dude, she just lit up Bird Person, bro. Damn, my man,
ship
Bird Person.
completely out of danger, Rick explains to the family that they won't be able to return home ever, as Earth will be the first place where the Federation will look for him. So instead, Rick suggests finding a new planet to live on. After searching for a while on his computer, Rick finds out that there are 765 planets similar to Earth in the Milky Way, but only 3 of them are outside federal jurisdiction. The first planet they visit is too small, so it gets ruled out.
I thought it was further away. I guess this one's a little small.
In the second, everything is on a cob, and Rick panics, so obviously it gets ruled out too. And on the third planet, the sun screams endlessly throughout the planet's 42-hour day.
Fuck that, dude.
So clearly they decide to return to the first planet, even though it is pretty small. On the planet, while the family is watching the news, Rick goes exploring and finds a cave leading under the house. Rick overhears his family arguing about what to do about his situation. Jerry suggests turning Rick in, since it's clear that Rick doesn't care about anyone but himself. However, the family is willing to sacrifice everything
I'm not gonna
for
lie.
Rick. They already lost him once, and they don't want to do it again. This makes Rick reflect. He feels guilty, because he knows deep down that his selfish and destructive behavior led them to this situation, so he decides to turn himself into the Galactic Federation. After saying goodbye to Morty under the pretext that he's going to go for ice cream, Rick calls the Federation pretending to be Jerry and waits in a cantina to be arrested. Meanwhile, Morty, Summer, Beth, and Jerry are transported back to planet Earth, while Rick is put in a high-security prison. What an ending. Alright, let's move on to the next season and see how it all unfolds. Also, fun fact, the next season took 2 whole years to make.
Yeah,
so
I
fans
remember
were
that
left
too.
waiting with a cliffhanger for
Yeah.
a long time. Season 3, here we come. Episode 1, The Rick Shank Redemption, begins with Rick and the whole family in a restaurant talking about how Rick escaped from prison. However, Rick's got a feeling something might be off, so he orders Jerry to fold himself over 12 times, but he only manages to do it 6 times, revealing that this is, in fact, just a simulation based on his memories. It turns out that the Galactic Federation wants to collect information from Rick's mind via a brain link, and then finish him off. Meanwhile, the Galactic Federation has taken over Earth. Jerry is happy about it since he has a good job and has been promoted multiple times.
I just got my 6th promotion this week, and I still don't know what I do.
However, Beth, Morty, and Summer miss their old lives, especially Summer, who decides to not
Hells,
sit on
bruh.
her hands and goes to the garage to try to find something
Damn.
useful, and to help Rick break out of prison. Summer has a feeling there must be something useful there. I mean, it's Rick's workplace after all. Morty tells Summer to stop searching, because in the end, they're not doing so bad. Summer gets angry, and after an argument, Morty tells her that if she loves her grandfather so much, she should go dig up the Rick that's in the garden. Summer does just that, and finds Rick's portal gun. Meanwhile, Rick is forced to relive the moment in which he invented the portal gun, because this information is very valuable for the Federation. However, for Rick, this moment tugs at his heartstrings, because it reminds him of the death of his wife, Diane. Rick ends up giving the Federation the information they were looking for. Or so they thought. This little scenario was
Hey,
a
bro,
lie.
hold on, I just
Rick
realized
tricks them
something.
and escapes, but now
24,
his
we'll
mind
come back
put
to
in
that,
a
hold
high
on.
lives, especially the information they were looking lives, especially. It turns out that the Galactic Federation wants to collect information from Rick's mind via a brain link, and then prison. Summer has a feeling there must be something useful there. I mean, it's Rick's workplace after all. Morty tells Summer to stop searching,
Hold on, it'll make sense.
because in the
Hold on,
end, they're not
'cause I got a
doing so
question.
bad. Summer
When you shop in the Jewel
Fucking
Osco
ad,
app,
bro, come
you
on.
can count on us to choose fresh produce, guaranteed.
gets angry, and after an argument, Morty tells her that if she loves her grandfather so much, she should go dig up the Rick that's in the garden.
So right here, this is my question. So why does because this is Rick's lab, right? I know Jerry, because this is the one Rick from when the Citadel came or whatever, the one that wasn't, he wasn't as smart as the other ones, and they like made fun of him and stuff. So I have a question about that. Why does Rick have a picture of that one here? I'm curious, like why? Because this is Rick's stuff. This isn't Jerry. This is like Rick's lab. So maybe did Jerry put this here? I could see if Jerry put it here. But why? But why would Jerry put it here? You know what I'm saying? I just got a question. That stuck out to me. I'm like, why does Rick have that? Because I never noticed that watching that. But like, why does Rick have some connection with this Rick? You know what I'm saying? Why? And I don't think they ever. Because besides that one episode, they never like show this Rick again ever. That's what I'm saying. It's not significant. So why? There's got to be some lore behind that or something. There's got to be something I missed or something. Maybe Jar Tunes will explain it, but I'm just that caught my eye. But back to the video.
Summer does just that, and finds Rick's portal gun. Meanwhile, Rick is forced to relive the moment in which he invented the portal gun, because this information is very valuable for the Federation. However, for Rick, this moment tugs at his heartstrings, because it reminds him of the death of his wife, Diane. Rick ends up giving the Federation the information they were looking for. Or so they thought. This little scenario was a lie. Rick tricks them and escapes, but now his mind is in a different body. Coming back to Morty and Summer, they're in trouble. After finding the portal gun and using it, they end up in a dimension where Beth, Jerry, and Summer don't want to let him escape, and destroy the portal gun in the process. However, and to their good luck, Morty and Summer are rescued by other Ricks. Or, well, to their bad luck. Since Summer, upon revealing what happened, gives information to the other Ricks about where Earth Rick C-137 is.
Holding C-137
Booyah.
and assassinate him.
Boo, nah.
Damn.
While the other Ricks go to try to kill him, Morty and Summer are taken as prisoners to the Citadel of Ricks. At this point, the Ricks arrives at the scene and kill Earth Rick C-137, or, well, just his body.
Hi, Rick. Bye, Rick.
Since Rick manages to transfer his consciousness again from his agent insect body to Rick D99, and after killing them all, Rick starts searching for Morty and Summer. Rick transfers his consciousness again, but this time to the commander-in-chief of the Citadel's militia, managing to enter the Citadel in this way. Once
Yeah,
there,
that was
Rick
pretty dope
teleports
to
the
see.
entire Citadel
This was pretty
straight to the
cool.
galactic prison,
That's
and
cool.
chaos breaks loose. The Ricks know that somehow Earth Rick C-137 is alive.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I gotta itch my leg. Even thinking about it, Futurama doesn't even, I mean, that's the closest show I could think of is Futurama type shit, because they go to different places, they do shit. But even Futurama, bro, I feel like Rick and Morty beats out Futurama. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I just like Rick and Morty better, bro. Let me know what you think. Which show do you prefer? And shout out Futurama. It's a good show too. I like it, and we'll react to that show if you want me to too. And that's a classic too. But which show? Let me know in the comments. Do you like Futurama better, or do you like Rick and Morty better? Let me know.
So they take Summer and Morty hostage, but Rick finds them and saves them. Now the only thing they have to do is leave that place and make everything go back to normal. To do that, Rick only changes the currency of the Federation from 1 to 0, which is enough for the galactic government to collapse, forcing them to leave Earth. Rick, Morty, and Summer return home just as Beth and Jerry are arguing about Rick, as Jerry is fed up with him, while Beth is happy to have him back in her life. In the end, Jerry and Beth can't agree and decide to opt for a divorce. Back in the Galactic Federation, Tammy is up.
Hold on, bruh. Gotta make sure Alright, I am recording.
To something. She just brought Bird Person back to life. Then we have episode 3, Pickle Rick.
Yeah, classic Pickle
let
Rick,
this one
baby.
speak for itself.
Pickle Rick! I'm Pickle Rick!
Moving on. Get ready for episode 5, The Whirly-Durly Conspiracy. The episode begins with Jerry suffering from his new lonely life. As he prepares to go to sleep, Jerry's surprised by Rick, who appears out of nowhere and takes him on an intergalactic adventure. Yep, it's a Rick and Jerry adventure. However, it seems strange to Jerry that Rick suddenly cares about him out of nowhere. There must be an ulterior motive behind this. And of course there is. Rick confesses that he's only doing this for Morty. Morty thinks that Jerry must be extremely sad about the divorce, and he's afraid he'll do something stupid. You know what I mean. Rick takes Jerry to an intergalactic resort that is surrounded by an immortality field, which means that if Jerry tries to kill himself during his stay, he'll just be brought back to life. Rick explains that in this place there are no consequences. Actually, they're free to do whatever they want. After sharing a few drinks with Rick, Jerry goes to the bathroom, where he gets captured by Risotto Groupon, Rick's enemy, who asks Jerry to help him murder Rick. Risotto's plan is to make Jerry go with Rick to the Whirly-Durly attraction, since there's a point on the ride that dips just outside the immortality field, the perfect spot for killing someone. Back at the bar, Jerry and Rick have a not-so-good conversation about divorce, to which Jerry gets angry and suggests Rick go to the Whirly-Durly. However, once at the attraction, Rick apologizes to Jerry for everything. For putting a lot of strain in their marriage. This surprises Jerry, and his demeanor shifts. He doesn't want Rick to die anymore. He knows they should get off that ride as soon as possible, however, it's too late for that. The ride's already started. During the ride, Jerry is shot, as Rick notices the killers and fights back. Jerry helps him by telling Rick about the point outside the immortality field. After the fight, Jerry and Rick end up outside the resort, in a nearby jungle, where Rick comforts him. Rick doesn't understand how Jerry knew about that point. However, Rick soon discovers the truth. Jerry, scared of Rick, backs away, right into a sort of worm alien, and is slowly eaten alive. Rick refuses to help him. But after a while, Rick takes pity on him and rescues him. Rick takes Jerry to an airfield, intending to bring them closer to home. At the checkpoint to enter the spaceship, a security guard injects Rick with a synaptic dampener that reduces his intelligence to that of a small child, as Rick is considered a possible threat by all the cybernetic augmentations he has. On the ship, Jerry and Rick encounter Risotto again. Jerry knows that he must protect Rick, because after what they injected him with, Rick is very vulnerable. Risotto shoots but misses as Jerry distracts him. However, the bullet damages the ship's shield as the spaceship passes through a wormhole. Suddenly, space, time, and matter combine, making Rick, Jerry, and Risotto experience a journey full of colors, sounds, and super weird crap.
That was always
Upon
weird,
leaving this trip, Rick regains consciousness and kills Risotto. Back at home, Jerry feels better about himself thanks to his adventure with Rick. Could definitely say that trip made the two of them tolerate each other a little more. Let's have a look at episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. After learning on the news that Joseph Lipnip will be executed for eating his son Thomas Lipnip, Beth remembers how she tried to cope with Tommy's disappearance, imagining that he's gotten lost in the magical realm of Fruipy Land, her make-believe world. Beth knows it might seem silly, but visiting Fruipy Land was her way of dealing with trauma. Rick, however, is offended because this place actually exists. He created Fruipy Land for her. Realizing Tommy could be trapped there, Beth decides to venture into Fruipy Land with Rick to uncover the truth. Once inside, Beth confronts...
This was fucked up, bro, because why didn't you ever just go back to get him? I don't get this. Like, why did Beth never go back? Like, why did she never just tell her you had to go back and get Tommy? Why did she just leave him in there? I'm just confused at that.
Rick by expressing her frustration about spending much of her childhood in that place, rather than having him more involved in her life. Rick justifies himself by saying that he put a lot of effort and time into creating this world for her. He thought of everything. Fruipy Land was literally designed to be a safe place for her. However, while they argue, Rick is captured by a giant bird, losing one of his arms. Yeah, that totally screams safety, doesn't it? Rick knows that something isn't right. He didn't create those types of creatures for this world. After running some tests, Rick discovers traces of human DNA in the bird, indicating that Tommy might indeed be in this place. While discussing the discovery, Rick and Beth are captured by a bunch of creatures who take them before the king of Fruipyland.
If I can interrupt, we're way ahead of the reveal here.
Yeah, just take us to King Tommy.
Tommy. However, Tommy doesn't recognize Beth, as he believes they're visitors. Excited about their visit, Tommy uses a play to narrate how he has survived all this time. After Beth abandoned him, or that's what Tommy thinks, he reproduced with the local creatures so he could eat them. In short, Tommy created his own cycle of incest and cannibalism. Following the play, Tommy decides to give a live...
Let me show you how to block this ad. First, you're gonna click on this video, then you're gonna download it. It's an ad blocker that's
demonstration, but Rick finds it unpleasant and decides to leave the place, taking Beth with him. Back at the house, Beth and Rick argue. Beth knows they have to go back to rescue Tommy, but Rick isn't going to do it. Rick is fed up with that place and confesses that he only created it because when she was a little girl, Beth was a crazy, scary kid who asked him for all kinds of crazy toys. Rick literally created Fruipyland to protect others from her. Beth tries to justify herself by blaming Rick. All she wanted was to spend more time with her father. Anyway, Beth re-enters Fruipyland to rescue Tommy, but after refusing to apologize for what happened, Tommy sends his children to capture her, which causes Beth to lose her sanity and kill everyone. Beth returns with some of Tommy's DNA and asks Rick to create a clone of him to save Tommy's father from lethal injection. After what happened, Beth reflects on life, and after a deep talk with Rick, she realizes that she doesn't know who she is and what she really wants for her life. Rick suggests Beth two options. She can either leave her family to explore the universe and find herself, with Rick creating a clone to take her place, or she can stay with her family and strive for happiness within the life she's chosen. Indeed, Beth's decision remains a mystery, one that we'll have to wait to uncover in future episodes. Next up is episode 10, the Rick and Morty date. When an unknown monster attacks a White House employee, Rick and Morty are called by the President of the United States to help with the problem. Once there, after shooting and scaring the little alien that was behind the attacks, Rick and Morty get bored and return home to play Minecraft. However, the Secret Service have been watching them all this time and informs the president that Rick and Morty just blew off America.
Rick and Morty just blew off America.
Observing Rick and Morty relaxing at their house via satellite, the president decides to call them about the monster situation. Rick and Morty assure them they're making progress, although slowly, and estimate about a month to complete the task, clearly bending the truth to buy themselves some time. After the pair's audacity, the president gets angry, revealing that he's been watching them all along and declares he no longer requires their assistance. Meanwhile, Summer and Beth enjoy some quality time together as they go shopping. Beth gives Summer some advice on her choices, to which Summer reacts positively, telling her that after the divorce, it's like Beth is a different person, a much cooler mom. However, Beth gets worried. Is she really a different person? As this happens, a miniature civilization is discovered in the Amazon rainforest, prompting Rick and Morty to head to Brazil for a closer look. However, the President of the United States also arrives, claiming that he'll take care of the situation. When Rick and Morty protest against him, arguing that he obviously doesn't have what it takes to deal with this threat, the President becomes angry and arrests them. However, once the President tries talking to the civilization, Rick and Morty escape. Back at home, Beth has an existential crisis. She still doesn't know if she's her clone or not, and calls Rick to confirm it. Rick assures her that she's not the clone, that it would have killed her if so. However, this only increases her paranoia. After Rick and Morty resolve the issue with the miniature civilization and other American conflicts, the president gets furious, declaring war on them. It's more than clear that he's had enough of the pair. However, Rick is ready to give up for good. Of course, under one condition, that the president takes a selfie with Morty, despite Morty's lack of interest. When the president refuses to do so, Rick indirectly kills most of the guards who are protecting him, creating chaos. Meanwhile, Beth goes to Jerry for help with her existential crisis, knowing that he understands her like no one else does. Jerry decides to recreate in detail what their first kiss was like, which not only makes Beth feel better, but also helps her realize that she truly loves him. Back at the White House, and after a small confrontation, Rick finally gets the president to agree to take a selfie with Morty, only to find that Morty's gone. Turns out that while they're fighting, Morty stole Rick's portal gun. Beth and Jerry went back together, and the whole family went to hide so that Rick doesn't kill Beth, since no one is sure if she's the clone or not. After learning all this, Rick surrenders to the president and asks for help finding his family. The president agrees, of course, only if Rick never bothers him again. Once with the family, Beth confronts Rick, trying to convince him not to kill her, to which Rick assures her that she is herself and not a clone. He only came to take the family back home. Everyone seems to like this new beginning, where Jerry and Beth are happily married and Beth isn't afraid of Rick leaving them anymore. except for Rick, who doesn't seem to be happy with how things turned out. Let's roll into Season 4 with episode number 1, Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die, Rick Pete. Rick takes Morty on an adventure again, but this time to get death crystals. Though contrary to what you'd think, the death crystals aren't used for killing. The death crystals allow their possessor to see their possible deaths. Crazy, right? Morty secretly decides to stay with the crystal, to be able to always obtain the best future results, which in this case is to die of old age next to Jessica. Morty follows his instincts and asks Rick if he can drive this time, to which Rick agrees.
He's like a teenager.
However, Rick soon realizes that Morty is a crystal, and they begin to argue.
He's still a teenager, so I get it. He's still a teenager.
Monster, I thought you were masturbating.
Yo.
Morty loses control of the ship and crashes, sending Rick flying straight to his death. Whoop, wasn't ready for that one. After this, a hologram of Rick appears and explains to Morty what he has to do in order to bring him back. But Morty prefers to be guided by the crystal. Seeing that bringing Rick back interrupts his dream of dying with Jessica, Morty decides not to. The best grandson ever. Though to be fair, Rick is kind of a douche. Meanwhile, Rick is reborn in another reality, due to Operation Phoenix, a plan B that he had saved precisely for moments like this. The unfortunate part is that Rick was revived in a reality ruled by extreme fascism. In his attempt to eliminate the extremist Morty of that reality, Rick ends up dying again, restarting the loop. Rick is reborn again, but this time as a shrimp. And yeah, you guessed it, in this reality, extreme fascism also ruled and Rick died again. As this happens, Morty has problems at school. He's so focused on being guided by the crystal that he makes one of the bullies literally want to kill him. Morty asks Rick's hologram for help, ensuring that if he helps him, he'll follow his instructions, step by step to bring him back. Fair enough, I guess, or maybe not, because Morty decides to follow the crystal instead. The crystal literally makes Morty a slave. His obsession with Jessica is insane. Coming back to Rick. He's finally reborn in a reality where fascism doesn't rule, and manages to return home only to find the disaster that Morty has caused. Rick, along with Hologram Rick and Wasp Rick, who helped him return home, go in search of Morty. The trio locate Morty in the middle of a desert, undergoing a transformation into a Venom-style monster. However, the Ricks manage to take the crystal away from Morty, rescuing him. Back at home, Morty apologizes to Rick, and after making amends, the duo is ready to go on more crazy adventures. Moving on to episode 2, The Old Man in the Seat. During breakfast, Rick runs out of syrup, so he calls his new intern named Gluty to bring him more. Gluty is a kind of cute alien who has the phrase, "Do not develop my app," tattooed on his forehead. Rick explains that the reason behind this is precisely so that Jerry does.
The #1 movie in America, 2 weeks in a row, is also the biggest.
Doesn't do it. Done with breakfast, Rick decides to go for a solo adventure, to which Summer embarrasses him by saying that Rick is actually going to poop and jokes about Rick being a shy pooper, who even has a secret pooping place. Jerry jokes that unlike Rick, he's not a shy pooper, and announces to the whole family that he's going to the bathroom. After pooping, Jerry sees Gluty, and after the slightest encouragement, falls and agrees to develop the app, despite not having any idea what it's about. Meanwhile, Rick lands on his secret pooping place, a planet with a breathtaking view where the sky is full of northern lights and stars. There is a
I will say the imagery in this, like in Rick and Morty, is also pretty good. Then again, it is modern day too, so like they have a lot more out on it. It just looks better. The graphics and shit, how it looks. Like look at the sky. I'm saying, look at all the plants. You know, the green. Just so cool.
Stream, nature is full of crystals, and everything feels so calm. Imagine having those views when you gotta go.
Right, yeah, even he's saying that.
However, upon finishing his business, Rick realizes that someone else has used his precious bathroom. This infuriates him. He's gotta find the culprit. Back at home, Morty realizes that Jerry just made Gluty develop his app, causing Morty to lose it. He knows this is not good at all. Meanwhile, Summer and Beth are hanging out at the mall when Summer decides to download an app called Love Finders, in which she finds a match almost immediately. She matched with the 25-year-old boy Danny, who coincidentally is also at the mall, so they decide to escape together, despite Beth's disapproval. As this occurs, other people around them also begin to receive notifications from this app and act strangely.
I quit, I'm gay, and I love Xander.
Beth calls Jerry to tell him what is happening, and Jerry realizes that the app could have been a bad idea, so he asks Gluty to take it down. But Gluty refuses, since he's just an intern. After being threatened, Gluty takes Morty and Jerry to the mothership to speak directly with his superior, who reveals that the app is just a distraction tactic. While humans are focused on that silly app, they plan to steal all the water on planet Earth. Meanwhile, Rick finally finds the one who used his precious bathroom, Tony, a simple office worker. After arguing for a long time, Rick lets him live. Of course, under the condition that he never uses his bathroom again. Back with Morty and Jerry, the duo find themselves in a tight spot
Morty and Jerry
as they have the entire ship looking for them after trying to take down the app. When Gluty finds them, he suddenly changes his mind and aids their escape. Meanwhile, Rick finds out that Tony passed away and something breaks inside of him, as he was willing to share the bathroom with Tony. Now Rick is left completely alone, reflecting on his life. Next up is Episode 5, Rattlestar Ricklactica. Rick and Morty are preparing for an adventure when they spot Jerry struggling to hang Christmas lights on the roof. They decide to lend a hand, surely not because Beth asked them to. Rick zaps Jerry with a lightning bolt, making his body lighter than air, and warns him that his shoes are the only things keeping him grounded, and that the effect will wear off in 10 hours. With a timer set, Rick and Morty can finally set off on their new adventure. Once on the ship, Morty has to go to the bathroom, so he asks Rick to let him go out, but Rick refuses, arguing that space is a dangerous place. However, their argument is interrupted when the tire suddenly goes flat.
Bro, you know, in space, I forgot, like, my 8th grade, like, science teacher told me this. He said, like, you wouldn't see a black hole in space. You would see things getting sucked into it, and if you could see it, then, like, you're too far, like, you're gonna be sucked into it too. Like, space is actually a scary place, and it's also not as, like, colorful. And, like, he also, my 8th grade science teacher told me this. He said it's not colorful, and, like, so when you see, like, the images of space of, like, all the colorful galaxies and shit, and, like, the nebulas and stuff like that, that's, like, they do that, like, they put, like, heat radiation filter on it, or they take the picture in, like, heat radiation or something like that. If you go into, like, dead ass space, it'll look like this. It'll legit look like this. Like, it'll be, like, all black with, like, white, like, it'll just, like, white, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know how that works, because I know there's, like, red stars and white stars and yellow stars and blue stars, right? So I don't know how it does. It also doesn't make sense, because how is it all black? Why wouldn't it be red? You know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't you see that color? Then again, I'm pretty sure, like, it's probably has to do with, like, you know, how light reflects, because that's how I'm just yapping here, but how light reflects off the eye and how we see color and stuff like that. It probably has something to do, you know, some scientific thing. Some scientists could explain, you know, or if you could explain in the comments, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that's something to do with science. But it's just, I don't know, it's just crazy, because when you think of how it should be, you know, versus how it actually is, you know, the scientific way. So
Rick tells Morty to stay inside the ship while he goes to repair it, and, you guessed it, Morty ignores him and gets out. Rick insists that he needs to get back on the ship, but Morty doesn't listen. He's convinced that nothing bad's gonna happen. I mean, they're in the middle of space completely alone. However, while they're arguing, Morty gets bitten by an astronaut snake.
Which is weird, bro. Like, weird shit.
And even though Morty kills it, he knows the wound is serious. Morty is on the verge of death. Nah, I'm just kidding. Rick has everything under control. He obviously has an antidote to the poison. It's Rick after all. What do you expect? Even though Morty recovers almost immediately, he feels bad because he finds out that the snake comes from a totally advanced civilization, which probably kept all their hopes in that astronaut snake that is now dead. However, Rick tells him not to take it so hard. Back at home, Morty heads to a pet store and purchases a new snake, you know, to replace the other one, and returns it to the planet where the astronaut snake was from. However, the other snakes soon discover that the snake that returned from the mission is an imposter. Meanwhile, Rick, Morty, and Summer are playing a board game when Beth asks them if they've seen Jerry, to which Rick replies that there's nothing to worry about, that he's probably floating around and will be back soon. However, Beth suspects that Jerry might be in trouble, so she joins Rick in the search for him. Beth calls Jerry, asking where he is, wanting to go look for him, but Jerry tells her not to worry. Rick paralyzes Beth and takes the opportunity to talk to Jerry alone, offering him his help, to which Jerry rejects, claiming that he can do it alone. Okay, someone's got an ego through the roof, literally. Meanwhile, Morty is having a nice time alone in his room when out of nowhere, two snakes appear trying to kill him. Luckily for him, Rick arrives with Beth, and together they rescue Morty. However, not without giving him an earful for sending a random snake to pose as the astronaut snake. Rick explains to Morty that because of this, snakes have evolved much faster than they should have, developing new technologies such as time travel, which caused a war where the goal is to kill the one who made all this start, Morty. Rick knows that what they have to do is simply go back in time and leave a book with the correct equations so that the snakes can discover time travel on their own, causing their own disaster. And it works. The snakes are no longer against Morty, but against themselves. Moral of the story, never let Morty get off the ship. Never again. The Vat of Acid episode begins with Rick and Morty in an acid factory, where the plan is to exchange some crystals. Rick assures Morty that it's something very simple, but if things go wrong for any reason, Morty will need to jump into the same vat of acid as him, Also, they can pretend they're dead and facilitate their escape, which Morty finds utterly absurd. Rick meets up with some intergalactic barters who he trades with, and everything seems to be going smoothly until one of the traders reveals to Rick that they have deceived him. Rick, without hesitation, jumps into the vat of acid, and his plan goes perfectly. Well, almost. Since they didn't expect the dealers to stay there for hours talking about what just happened, Morty becomes impatient, realizing that the dealers have no intention of leaving. So he decides to go out of the vat and kill them. Once on the ship, Morty and Rick argue, because it's obvious that Rick's invention was a very bad idea. To which Rick gets angry, arguing that Morty ruined everything. The argument intensifies until it gets out of control, when Morty tells Rick that most likely all of his ideas are bad because he can't do them. Like that idea Morty had about a video game to which Rick never made. Rick gets fed up and starts making the video game Morty wants, just to show him that he can do everything. After hours and hours of work, Rick finally manages to create the video game and shows it to Morty, who isn't only the best inventor, but the best grandfather of all, huh? Morty's extremely happy, and obviously puts it to the test. Literally, with this video game, he can do whatever he wants, and if something goes wrong, he just needs to go back to the checkpoint and restart.
I think I'm gonna like this thing.
Weeks go by, and Morty sure is having fun, but he stops using the device just as he begins a relationship with a girl. Morty is enjoying the relationship, and despite the ups and downs, everything seems to be going well. However, Morty's happiness is short-lived when Jerry accidentally resets the device, sending Morty back to the starting point, which is just when he met his girlfriend. Morty does everything possible to get her back, but fails, and enters a deep state of reflection, where life without consequences is not good. However, Rick tells him that there were consequences after all. Every time
That's what I'm saying. You got it. There's always, with that shit, like I'm saying, comes great power, comes great responsibility, bro. And of course, Rick didn't tell him the consequence before giving him the damn fucking device. He just gives him the device and then, like, doesn't tell him shit. Like, bro. Oh, man. Fucking Rick. So irresponsible and just, like, careless, bro.
And Morty experienced do-overs, in reality, he was essentially repeating the same actions countless times, but in different dimensions, making the Mortys of the other realities suffer the consequences. Morty panics, instantly regretting his actions, so he asks Rick for help to solve everything. Rick tells him that there's nothing to solve. The only thing he can do is return to his reality and face the consequences. Morty agrees, and Rick sends him back to his reality where all the people he bothered are waiting for him outside the house. Morty, embarrassed and scared, doesn't know what to do. So Rick tells him that the only solution is to jump into the vat of acid and fake his death. Now who's having second thoughts about this idea, huh? Morty swallows his ego and dives in, making everyone leave. As Morty steps out, Rick reassures him that his ideas are always solid, and that Morty can never make fun of him again. Clearly, this whole thing was just a trick by Rick to teach him a lesson. But something heartbreaking that only the audience can see is that the girl that Morty had met runs out to try to talk to him just before he steps into the vat of acid. Let's continue.
I just want to say, too late, bruh. He tried to talk to you earlier, bro. You should have been there before. You should have been talking to him. He would have never been doing that. So, yeah, you know, take advantage of time, bro. Don't wait till it's too late, bro. Hate when people do that shit.
Continue with episode 10, Star Mort Rick Turn Off the Jerry, which begins with a version of Beth totally different from the one we know, leading a group from the Galactic Federation's troops. After finishing the mission, Beth returns to some kind of secret base where she's treated for her wounds. During a conversation with her doctor, the doctor suggests that taking a break from her duties might be a good idea for her, and inquires whether she misses planet Earth. Beth responds that there's no need for her to miss it, explaining that her father created a perfect clone to stand in for her. The doctor asks her what would happen to her clone if she decides to return, but Beth doesn't care, until she hears the doctor say that she has some kind of bomb attached to her neck, which would most likely activate if she tried to go back home.
He's not stupid.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, Beth suggests the idea of going for family therapy. Rick, however, comes up with multiple excuses and goes to the garage to avoid the conversation. In the garage, Rick sees the other version of Beth, who confronts him about the bomb on her neck, to which Rick assures her that it's not what it seems. Rick explains that Earth's Beth also has a similar device around her neck. This device is designed to transfer the memories of Earth's Beth to her for when she decides to return, thus confirming that Earth's Beth is indeed the clone. This explanation calms Space Beth, after which Rick invites her to go for a drink.
Wanna grab a drink? All the time. Good girl.
Beth shares her crazy space adventures with Rick when suddenly, a television announcement reveals that the Galactic Federation is looking for Beth. Rick worries, as this most likely implies that they might come for Earth's Beth. Following this revelation, Space Beth starts to question Rick's concern and wonders who the clone really is. Meanwhile, Tammy interrupts the Smiths' family therapy to kill Beth, causing Earth's Beth to realize that she's most likely the clone. However, Rick arrives just in time and saves her from Tammy. Rick takes Earthbeth and Jerry on his ship, and they flee. To
He
find
said
Morty
no.
and Summer,
Yo, he said fuck the counselor, family only, bruh. That's fucked up.
and get everyone to safety. Spacebeth chases them, and obviously Earthbeth is furious. However, Rick assures her that she's not the clone, and that he only created Spacebeth because he thought the idea of having a space daughter was cool. Earthbeth gets angry and asks to speak to Spacebeth, which only results
hold on.
in
And that's another thing. How do you just clone your daughter so casually? Like, even if she wanted it, bro, like, that's still crazy to do. That's still, to me, that's still crazy as fuck to do. Like, how do you just clone your daughter like that, bro? I don't know.
two being captured by the Galactic Federation. While Rick goes to rescue the Beths, Morty and Summer go to find the NX-5 to shut it down, to prevent the destruction of Earth. Rick searches everywhere, but only comes across Bird Person, who is now Phoenix Person, and they start battling each other. Rick is seriously injured, and just when Phoenix Person was going to destroy him, the two Beths arrive and save him. Or, well, they try, since Phoenix Person is really, really powerful. In the end, the trio end up saved by Jerry, who uses the lifeless body of Tammy as a distraction.
Yeah,
Well,
that was funny.
close.
Yeah,
Back
they're
at
not
home,
gonna show
Rick is
that scene, but
prepared
that
to
was
reveal
funny as
which of
hell.
the
That scene was funny as fuck when he did that.
two Beths is the clone, but no one cares. Regardless, Rick puts the memory into a projector and watches the memory, only to find out that he's not sure who the actual clone is, realizing that he indeed is the worst father ever. Alright, let's continue with Season 5, Episode number 1, Mort Dinner Rick Andre. In the middle of a battle, in another dimension, Morty carries Rick, who's very badly injured, and they manage to reach their ship. Morty turns on the ship and takes them out of that dimension, but upon entering their new dimension, the ship suffers from damages, causing it to malfunction and eventually shut down. With Rick unconscious, Morty knows they're falling straight to their death. He decides to call Jessica and confess his love, which is surprisingly accepted by her. This makes Morty somehow stabilize the ship, managing to land in the middle of the ocean. Rick wakes up, realizes the situation he's in, and gets extremely anxious as he tries to get out of there. But
This
it's
is another
too late,
stupid
as his
episode,
old
bro.
arch nemesis,
Funny,
Mr.
stupid
Nimbus,
episode, Mr.
appears
Nimbus,
and
bro.
cries foul at Rick for violating an ancient treaty.
I am Mr. Nimbus. He's gonna say that a lot.
Back at home, Rick is angry, preparing dinner for Nimbus when he asks Morty to help him with the wine, while he sends Summer to recover the forbidden shell that gives Nimbus all his powers. After a while, Nimbus arrives at the Smith house, as does Jessica, who was invited by Morty. At the table, Rick sends Morty to collect the wine, which they previously left inside a Narnia type of portal where time progresses more rapidly, allowing the wine to age faster. Once inside the Narnia dimension, Morty encounters a couple who kept the wine safe for a few decades. Hoovy, the guy from that dimension, helps Morty to take the wine back, while giving him love advice for his date with Jessica. However, once Hoovy goes back, he finds out that he's been gone for decades, and is murdered by his son, who blames Hoovy for abandoning him. Morty gives Nimbus a bottle of wine, and keeps the other one to use with Jessica. However, Nimbus asks for more, meaning that Morty needs to return to the Narnia dimension to bring more. Upon returning, Morty realizes that Hoovy is no longer there, but instead someone who's out for Morty's blood. Morty soon realizes that time inside that dimension indeed goes faster, and without knowing, he's made tons of enemies, going from generation to generation due to Hoovy's son. However, Morty manages to return with some more wine, but accidentally breaks it when he bumps into Jerry.
The wine. Dad was horny and I dropped it.
Knowing that he needs to go back, Morty decides to prepare himself and enters with weapons, knowing he's got a whole lot of enemies on the other side. Morty manages to get the wine again, but
That's low-key the first time we've seen Morty, like, I'm doing this shit on my own, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing it on my own type shit. Well, actually, no. The first time we see him do that is at the season 1, like when Rick gets captured and he has to like convince the other Mortys that they're actually something type shit. So we actually see, you know what I'm saying, and maybe there's other examples, but this is like the second time I noticed that, like, we see, you know, Morty developing himself and not being so dependent on Rick, you know what I'm saying?
But this time he accidentally leaves behind one of his portal opening gloves.
Damn.
This leads the civilization inside the
But he's gonna
portal
make
to spend
mistakes like
years
that, like rookie
preparing to enter
mistakes type
Morty's
shit.
dimension and gain revenge. As Rick is about to ask Morty to witness him signing a treaty with Nimbus, the portal opens and a traveler steps out. Morty fights for his life, and just when everything seems to calm down, Jessica gets pulled into the portal, which then closes with her inside. Morty enters to save her, but somehow, it seems like Jessica isn't there, and the dimension has returned to its point of origin. Actually, nope, it was all a trap. Morty just fell right into it. Meanwhile, Nimbus and Rick argue, since all that chaos just destroyed their treaty. Rick enters the Narnia dimension to rescue Morty and Jessica, only to realize that it's a completely advanced civilization.
God, why does everyone go cyberpunk bird? So fucking hacked.
Luckily, they're rescued by Nimbus. Once home, Jessica tells Morty that they can only be friends, because after spending decades locked in that dimension, Jessica has become a kind of time god. On the
I
other
don't know,
hand,
that was
Rick and
weird
Mr.
too,
Nimbus
yeah.
have started to get along.
Yeah, seeing that
Well,
episode
until
was
Summer
weird.
returns with the shell and completely ruins the relationship once again. Coming up, Episode 8, Rick'ternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort. Rick is left alone at home, as he doesn't want to accompany the family on a cruise trip, stating that he's got a lot of things to do. However, once he's alone, Rick goes to the garage and activates the best friend rejuvenation sequence, which brings his cybernetic half-dead friend Bird Person out of the place in which Rick kept him after their fight. Rick removes all of his cybernetic parts and tries to bring him back to life. But Bird Person only wakes up for a second and passes out again. Rick asks the computer to detect the problem, discovering that there's a missing object in Bird Person's mind, to which Rick decides to enter his friend's mind and fix it. Once inside, Rick goes through his friend's memories and comes across a memory of his younger self who wants to help him. However, Rick prefers to go alone. After wandering through the mind of his friend, Rick finally finds him, observing a memory of himself with Tammy. Rick tells him that they have to get out, so that they can get out of the coma he's in, but Bird Person doesn't want to, and creates a distraction in an attempt to escape. Rick meets his memory again, and despite not wanting his help, he finally accepts, and together they go in search of Bird Person. The Ricks track down Bird Person to a large red crystalline tree, only to find that Bird Person wants to destroy his own mind. The Ricks have little time, as Bird Person's just blown up his own mind. After going through even more memories, the Ricks finally find Bird Person in one of his and Tammy's most precious memories. Rick tries to persuade him to return with him, but Bird Person doesn't want to, stating that he died on his wedding day, that he would rather die with the person he loves, Tammy. Rick finds this ridiculous and reminds him that Tammy...
Bro, she doesn't love you, bro. She betrayed you, bro. Stop. You stop simping, man.
...was the one who killed him, but Bird Person doesn't seem to care. However, Rick manages to convince Bird Person after telling him that he has a daughter with Tammy who's waiting for him, and manages to bring him back. Mission accomplished. Let's dive into Episode 9, Forgetting Rick Morty. Man, these titles are so good.
Yeah.
Morty jumps from dimension to dimension, cleaning up the mess that Rick has left in each one of them. Once finished with his list, Morty returns to the garage to return Rick's portal gun. But as he does so, he realizes that Rick has marked a notch on the container that stores the portal fluid. So Morty mixes some lemon soda with the remaining fluid to pretend that no one has used it. However, when doing so, Morty accidentally spills the remaining portal fluid on his palm, which creates a small portal from which a bunch of garbage...
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
YouTube Premium coming soon, bro.
...comes out. There's a person on the other side. Now Morty can literally talk to the hand. You know, like the phrase, talk to the hand. All right,
yeah.
I had the ultimate stash hole, and now I got a kid in my thigh.
Rick enters the garage and obviously notices that Morty put lemon soda in his portal gun. After scolding him, Rick decides to replace Morty with 2 crows. Jeez, that escalated quickly and strangely. Morty goes to the bathroom to cry and talk to his hand, who advises him to move on from Rick. Meanwhile, Rick manages to get the 2 crows and trains them to be better helpers than Morty. This makes Morty even more angry, so he decides to go find Nick, the person behind the portal, to hang out with him. However, Morty soon realizes that Nick is locked up in a mental asylum, which makes him question how he met Rick and why he's in that place. Nick confesses to Morty that he met Rick while leaving a bar, and that he ended up in the mental asylum because of a breakdown he had after Rick had thrown him to Australia, just for spilling some of his portal fluid. After hearing this, Morty decides to go get Nick from the asylum to free him, stating they both need a fresh start after what Rick did to them. Outside the asylum, Nick convinces Morty to go to Rick's garage, steal a portal gun, and destroy everything, to which Morty agrees.
Did I give you a dap yet? Look at us. We got out.
After this, Nick and Morty go to Rick's portal fluid supplier, but things turn violent very quickly when Nick pulls out a gun. Morty tries to stop Nick from hurting people, and then quickly leaves him behind, regretting everything and calling Rick to apologize and ask for help. And I mean, he does need it since Nick is going crazy. However, Rick is busy rescuing his kidnapped crows. Anyway, Morty manages to get out of the situation alive and returns to Rick, hoping to fix things between the two and continue enjoying more adventures. However, Rick doesn't think the same way. He tells Morty that their relationship has become very toxic, and that they should go their separate ways, even if it's just for a while. Rick gives Morty his own portal gun, so he can go on his own adventures and leave, along with the crows. Yeah, things are gonna be different from now on. No more Rick and Morty adventures. Wow. Alright, next episode, episode 10. Rick Morty Jack. Stupid. Rick is completely immersed in his adventures as Rick and 2 crows, even evolving into a Raven Avenger. You know, a kind of crow-themed hero trying to save the world. In one of his battles, Rick meets Morty, who's desperate to make Rick go back to his old self and go on more adventures. but everything becomes very awkward when Rick refuses. Rick continues with his own adventures until he's interrupted again by Morty. Only this time by a Morty who's 40 years old. He claims that Rick has been gone for way too long. So long that Jerry died of stage 4 cancer and Summer's a nurse who's gotten married to a junkie. He asks Rick to return, to which Rick refuses again. However, Rick soon changes his mind upon learning that his 2 crows are not loyal to him and decides to return to Morty. Back at home, Rick discovers that Morty lied. Jerry's still alive and Summer never married. Morty only used an aging serum to kind of emotionally blackmail Rick a little. Beth asks Rick to return Morty to being 14 years old.
Look, man, Rick does a lot of grind too, so I don't blame Morty for getting on his grind too. And that's kind of, again, smart on Morty's part, you know what I'm saying? So I'll give Morty his clout there.
But to do that, the duo has to go back to where Morty brought the serum, to the Citadel. Once there, Rick notices that the Citadel has changed a lot, since there are many more Mortys than Ricks. Rick and Morty find someone who can help them, and they manage to return Morty to his original age. Rick is discussing the price to rejuvenate Morty, but is interrupted by a deformed Morty standing outside the store, screaming madly that the Citadel is a weapon of mass destruction. But he's soon shot down by the police.
You're about to get suspended with pay.
Rick suggests Morty to leave that place, but other Ricks arrive telling them that they've been invited by President Morty to have dinner with them. Rick finds it suspicious, but after Morty's insistence, they accept. During dinner, President Morty begins talking about how Rick built the Citadel, and asks him for information on how to take down the central finite curve. Rick obviously refuses, and things quickly spiral out of control. Spoiler alert, this President Morty is secretly Evil Morty, who took over the Citadel in the episode The Ricklantis Mix-Up. I didn't cover that one because honestly, you need to go watch that for yourself.
Yeah, if you didn't watch the Ricklantis Mix-Up, you'd need to. This shit is it's a great episode, bro. So political, it's cool as fuck. And because I'm a political science, I was a political science major in college, got my degree in political science. So it was kind of cool seeing like just the politics and shit and how he became president.
It's
pretty
so
cool.
good. Anyway, enough blabbing. Evil President Morty ties them to the chairs and confesses that he put some type of technology in his food to scan Rick's brain. So now he's everything he needs to continue with his plan. Morty apologizes to Rick for bringing him to the Citadel, which makes Evil Morty angry and uses the brain scanning device to show him all the abuse the Mortys have suffered from Rick. Morty is horrified and loses faith in Rick. However, he doesn't have much time to think about it, since Rick asks him to focus on getting out of there. And after fighting with the guards for a while, they manage to escape. Meanwhile, Evil Morty announces to all the Citadel citizens that nobody leave, everybody stay.
Nobody leave, everybody stay.
Which only causes most of the Ricks and Mortys to naturally attempt to leave, but when they try to, they're killed, since all the portals have been hacked. As the Citadel falls into chaos, Rick and Morty descend to the bottom, hoping to find uncontaminated portal fluid to be able to return home, but there's none left. Morty asks for explanations about what is the central finite curve, to which Rick promises to explain everything after they escape. Morty is unsatisfied and refuses to go, so Rick gives Morty his brain-scanning device to see by himself the reasons behind all of this. Here we go. The Rick Sanchez C-137 origin story. After Rick Prime kills Beth and Diane, Rick decides to create a portal gun on his own and heads off to get revenge, killing any Rick who got in his way, or who he's suspected of being Rick Prime. However, Rick never manages to find that one Rick who killed Diane and Beth, and loses hope, which causes him to fall into depression and alcoholism. As a result, the Citadel was created precisely to protect
I was watching a video on this a while back, and it was about how like Rick Prime, there was a conspiracy how Rick Prime had his own it's not talked about in this video, but in a different video it talks about how Rick Prime had his own like little cult group, and that's another reason why Rick C-137 went after all of them. It wasn't entirely random. He was targeting people he knew that were affiliated with Rick Prime. And we can react to that video too. I might react to it just to get the lore and the conspiracy and shit, because I like that, if I can find it again. But yeah, it like basically talked about how like Rick Prime had his own cult and shit, and people like working for him, like other Ricks like working for him in a sense. And it was kind of interesting because I forgot the evidence and show, but it wasn't like stupid. It wasn't like, oh, this is just bait. No, it was actually decent. It actually like, you know, evidence to it. So if I find it, we'll react to it. But I just wanted to add that context in too. So, you know, so you see that maybe he wasn't just killing, you know, innocent Ricks. He was maybe killing like the Rick Prime cult, I guess, if that's what you want to call it.
Other Ricks from C-137 Rick. It's even shown that C-137 helped make the Citadel, probably to help narrow down possibilities for who Rick Prime actually is. After that massive war dump, the duo meets Evil Morty again, who explains to Morty the true reason why the Citadel was created and his plan. Basically, the Ricks of the Citadel created the central finite curve to create a barrier that separates the dimension of the most intelligent Rick from the rest of the dimensions. Evil Morty's plan is to escape this curve and live a life free of Ricks. To escape, Evil Morty activates the Citadel's dimensional engine, causing a wormhole to open, destroying everything. Rick and Morty know that they must leave the place as soon as possible so they can get on a ship and get to safety, but there's a small problem. The entire fluid portal was destroyed, so they cannot return home and they're left stranded in the middle of space. Meanwhile, Evil Morty manages to escape by traveling through the wormhole and penetrating the curve. Once in this new multiverse, Evil Morty opens a gold portal with his upgraded portal gun and steps through to his new life. Kicking off Season 6, we've Episode 1, Solarics. After being stranded in the middle of space, after everything that happened with the Citadel and Evil Morty, Rick and Morty prepare for their death, because there's nothing they can do to return. They have no food and water left, and little by little they lose faith. Wow, that sounds pretty dramatic, right? Anyway, Space Beth comes to the rescue. Back at home, the first thing Rick does is try to repair his portal gun.
That there reminded me of Avengers Endgame when, like, Captain Marvel came and saved Iron Man and shit from the ship. That's what that reminded me of right there.
Of course, after having eaten something since they're starving. Literally. However, Rick botches the repairs a little bit. Instead of resetting portal travel, he accidentally reset portal travelers, which sends Rick, Morty, and Jerry to their original dimensions. But before this happened...
So what, did he just send a bunch of, like, corpses back to, like, a random timeline then? Is that what he did just now for all the, like, the Rick and Mortys that were just in space? Because I didn't, like, ever think about that, like, watching that. But that's kind of fucked up,
just
bro.
to give Summer
like,
directions
imagine, like,
on how
hold
to bring
on,
them back.
No. Because imagine, I didn't mean to do that. But imagine, bro, like, you're just taking a walk through the park and all of a sudden, like, a dead corpse just comes, like, flying out of the sky or just comes, like, spawns or just, like, transports next to you, bro. I'm not thinking, like, literally. But it's just crazy to think about type shit. Like, if you were, like, a citizen in, like, the Rick and Morty universe.
Call. Here we go!
Rick returns to dimension C-137, where Beth and Diane were murdered, while Morty returns to his old dimension, which was infested by mutant Mantis Cronenberg things. Rick rushes to collect as many tools as possible from his old garage while chatting with an AI Diane that he created. While they talk, Rick decides that it's time to move on, putting his revenge plan aside so he can enjoy his family. However, while leaving the dimension through a wormhole that Summer and the two Beths opened, Diane tells Rick that it's very likely that Rick Prime, the one who killed them, is back in his original dimension. Meanwhile, Morty meets his father, who's traveling alone, after the deaths of Summer and Beth. The Jerry of this dimension rejects Morty. Since Jerry blames him for everything and for abandoning them, Rick arrives to pick up Morty and reveals to him
that's his original real dad. So that's Jerry Prime and that's Morty Prime. Like that's their real, like that's their real, like that's the real dad of the whole multiverse, of the whole dimensions and shit. They are the real child and sibling type shit, and they're the prime versions of each other, of you know what I'm saying, of them. So crazy. It's just crazy. This show is crazy.
That the dimension they're in is actually Rick Prime's dimension.
Right.
Let's decipher that for a moment. What that means is that Rick C-137 stayed in that dimension in case Rick Prime ever returns so that he could take revenge. Which also means that Rick Prime is Morty's original grandfather.
Because that means his family's not even his family type shit. You got to think about that. Like that's mind blowing to like learn.
After a while, Rick manages to find Rick Prime's secret base. Only he's not there. Morty knows it's a trap and convinces Rick to back out. After Rick and Morty meet the others, they all return home together, where they find another Jerry who's just gotten out of the shower. However, this Jerry accidentally lets out an alien parasite named Mr. Frundles, who takes over the entire world in a matter of seconds.
Damn.
I'm Mr. Frundles.
I don't care.
So, the family's forced to find another dimension to move to. Luckily, Rick manages to find a dimension quite similar to the previous one, where the other Jerry, Summer, Beth, Morty, Space Beth, and Rick died of natural causes. So it's easy for them to take their places. Finally, things are somewhat normal again, at least for now. Coming up, Episode 3, Bethic Twinstinct. Space Beth is back with the family for Thanksgiving. During her stay, things seem to improve between the Beths after bonding over some wine talk. Eventually, things get interesting between the pair as their casual flirting turns into doing something more. An actual love affair. Is this what it means to love yourself? I sure hope not.
I better get back to bed. Yep, same.
Summer notices at first, and then Morty, causing them both to become obsessed with playing an ultra-realistic alien video game to avoid thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, it really is a confounding scenario. I mean, your mom is having an affair, with herself.
Right.
I'd drown out the thoughts with games too, to be honest. Rick also notices what's happening
weird.
and talks to Beth. He gives her advice on what to do since Rick was also in a similar situation in the past. Anyway, he tells Beth that she has to think about the family and how this will affect them, especially to Jerry. Beth begins to have doubts about her affair with Space Beth, knowing that she's doing things wrong. However, Space Beth doesn't want to let her go, so she confesses to Jerry everything that's been going on. Jerry's perplexed and activates the pill bug protocol, which causes him to transform into a pill bug. Rick tells the family that there's nothing he can do. Jerry's the only one who can decide whether or not to leave that state, and if everyone tries to force him, things will get worse. The Beths argue about what to do, when it occurs to Earth's Beth to ask Rick for help in erasing their memories. However, Rick doesn't really agree because even though they would forget it, others wouldn't. It's kind of selfish, you know? At that, Jerry comes out of his pill bug, declaring that he will not allow them to erase their memories, but that he's still leaving. After arguing for a while, Jerry confesses that he's more upset that the two Beths hooked up behind his back rather than the fact that they did it. And eventually, the three of them end up enjoying a night together. You know what I mean?
Because I know what you want.
Meanwhile, Rick, Morty, and Summer listen to everything, and you could say that they're somewhat traumatized by the situation.
Thanksgiving, bro?
Certainly not something easy to digest. Next up is episode 6, Jerixic Mort. Morty's running late for school, so he asks Rick to help him get out of there on time. Rick decides to use the portal gun he's been repairing, but it's evident that's not yet safe to use. So Rick decides to give Morty a drive to school. Morty arrives late, and while the teacher scolds him before mysterious spaceships land on Earth, it turns out that dinosaurs are back.
Monkeys went bald?
Yo!
Everyone's in shock. Didn't dinosaurs become extinct like thousands of years ago?
Is that what we would be to like them? Would we be like monkeys? Like would we like on the timeline? Are we considered like apes to them or like monkeys? Like what we consider to them, bro? Like I just it's funny as fuck, bro.
The dinosaurs confess to the humans that they had no idea about extinction. And they're surprised to see how much the human race has evolved. They explained to them that when they left Earth, the world was utopia, where technology was very advanced and used for the common good. That's why they decided to explore the galaxy, to help others achieve the same thing. However, upon returning, they're surprised to see that humanity has done more harm than good to the planet. Because of this, during a UN meeting, the dinosaurs managed to convince all the political leaders to take an indefinite vacation until they change everything as it was before. In a short time, the dinosaurs solve humanity's problems, such as ending capitalism, useless jobs, and even making everyone recycle. With everyone now
Nothing but net. Get the Angel Special at McDonald's.
Free from responsibilities, life unexpectedly turns boring due to the lack of jobs, school, and no money. Even the President of the United States has had enough and contacts Rick,
President only pages me if it's an emergency or he needs Molly.
urging him to get rid of the dinosaurs and make everything go back to normal. Rick accepts, but under the condition of hosting the next Oscars. Once with the dinosaurs, Rick introduces himself as the most powerful human of all time, and tells them that he is willing to share the secrets of interdimensional travel with them. However, the dinosaurs don't need his help, as they discovered interdimensional travel long before him. What's more, they even give Rick a new and improved portal gun.
That's what I was gonna say. Imagine a claiming that. Imagine a claim. Hold on. First off, this raises questions because does this mean that? So is Rick smarter than the dinosaurs or no? Because their shit is better. Like imagine imagine thinking you're the smartest person in the universe or whatever in the multiverse, and they come and give you some shit that's better. So is Rick like? So does that mean he's not the smartest? So maybe he's the smartest. Okay, like the video said, he's the smartest human, but maybe he's not the smartest being even in this universe because we see the dinosaurs. Their teleportation is their interdimensional travel is better, and you can even see the location of where you're traveling to. So in a sense, and something we see is like with rigged like travel or portal travel is that with Rick's you can't like when it's rigged you can't see the other side like where it leads to, and that's kind of like the mystery of it. And that's kind of been like a thing they've kind of used in the episodes, but with this that would kind of kill that because you could see like the other side where you're going, you know, it's more clear, it's better. I just wanted to note that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So is Rick not the smartest being then in Rick and Morty universe or what?
Furious, since no one is better than him, and destroys the portal gun. Despite his anger,
he got mad.
Rick knows that there's something wrong, because no one returns to Earth like that, out of the blue, and after so much time. Rick is sure that these dinosaurs are hiding something. Rick and Morty travel together to the planets, where the dinosaurs have previously been in search of answers, and they do find something. Turns out that every planet that used to have dinosaurs was wiped out by giant meteors, which caused their extinction. Back on Earth, Rick announces his discovery publicly, leading humanity to unite against the dinosaurs. Okay. Unaware of the chaos and destruction their presence caused, the dinosaurs decide to leave the planet Earth.
I like trains now.
for the good of everybody. Rick celebrates his victory by hosting the Oscars. But his happiness is soon ruined when Summer tells him that the dinosaurs are on Mars, ready to sacrifice themselves to the meteors. Rick goes to Mars and manages to save them, after convincing them to abandon their principles and destroy the meteor. Back at home, Rick is happy to show Morty that he finally fixed his portal gun. Now the duo are ready to go on more terrible, terrifying, wonderful adventures again. Moving on, we have Episode 10, Rictional Mortpoon's Rickmas Mortication. That's one hell of a title.
Yeah.
It's Christmas, and Rick gives the whole family gifts from the multiverse, making everyone happy. Especially Morty, since Rick gave him a lightsaber. And no, not like the plastic ones you may have gotten for Christmas, this one's real. Basically right out of Star Wars. Rick and Morty head to the garage to test their new toy, but Morty accidentally drops it, causing the lightsaber to burn through each layer of the floor. Rick and Morty run to the elevator that Rick has in his laboratory and go down floor by floor trying to find it. When they reach the 10th floor, chaos breaks out. Morty meets Rick. Yeah, turns out that the Rick who's been with the family for Christmas is simply a robot that Rick created to take his place so he can hunt for Rick Prime.
He said, fuck y'all, I got a mission to accomplish. I'm gonna do this myself. And then, damn, we didn't even know about that. So imagine how long he's been down there. I forgot. Damn.
While Morty gets flooded with disappointment, Robot Rick is happy. This means he'll no longer need to work. Yet Morty tells him that he can't leave yet, because it's Christmas. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by the president's arrival.
You got something to tell me, Morty?
Merry Christmas!
He informs Morty that the lightsaber has put Earth in danger, as it's heading directly to the planet's core. After a long time talking, Morty and the president manage to get Rick's help to destroy the lightsaber. But things don't go well with the method Rick uses. So the president's scientists team up, and they end up using their own method and successfully solve the problem. However, the president takes the lightsaber with him in order to prevent another...
See again, and then again, notice right here, we low-key see, you know, Morty again doing it without Rick, you know what I'm saying, becoming his own entity. And I only point out because that's essentially, I mean, not essentially, but like not the same way, but that's kind of what Evil Morty is, his own like man, or he took control of the situation. He became independent. You know, he did whatever he did. I forgot, he did something to his Rick. He took control of his Rick or whatever, right? But then he became his own man, and he didn't need Rick anymore, is what I'm saying. That's what we're kind of like getting here from these like little build-ups and moments and stuff.
Disaster. To which Morty gets furious because it's his toy. Later, after rejoining the family dinner and noticing that everyone's having fun, Morty discloses that the Rick who's been with them this whole time is just a robot. The family gets so angry that they end up disarming him. Meanwhile, in the White House, the president starts playing with the lightsaber when he accidentally drops it too. And once again, the Earth is in danger of being destroyed. Despite the challenges, Morty and the robot Rick manage to stop the lightsaber before reaching Earth's core, and they head to the White House seeking revenge for the lightsaber's confiscation. Once there, Morty and the president start to argue when things escalate into a physical fight. The situation gets out of control as the White House ends up in space. However, the real Rick ends up rescuing Morty and the president, but unfortunately, robot Rick doesn't survive. The only good thing after all this is that Rick and Morty reconcile. Rick then decides to include Morty in his hunt for Rick Prime, and the duo is more united than ever. Venturing into Season 7, Episode 5, Unmortrican. Evil Morty's past is shown through a flashback, in which we can see the precise moment he betrayed Rick, killed thousands of Ricks, and kidnapped thousands of Mortys for his evil plan. Then became president of the Citadel, and finally crossed the central finite curve. In a colorful universe, Evil Morty successfully evades various creatures while collecting resources, and takes them to his space mansion, which is basically a hidden paradise.
Just another day in paradise.
However, his peace is interrupted by several portals that Rick C-137 has opened in search for Rick Prime. While Rick and Morty are testing their new invention, which teleports every possible version of Rick Prime, or rather his various decoys, to Rick's laboratory, Evil Morty appears, making Morty panic. However, upon seeing what they're doing, Evil Morty advises Rick to filter for probability stasis, so that the work is faster and more efficient. And it works. A version of Rick Prime that they had not seen before appears. Rick suspects it's a trap, but as always, Morty ignores him and tries to shoot him, which activates a kind of black portal that takes the three of them to a prison, where all the Ricks who also tried to track down Rick Prime get transported to. Suddenly, a video of Rick...
And they never talk about it, but the substance, this black goo, if you pay attention to the actual episode, it like even goes over, so like, cause, they didn't show it in this clip, but it even like the goop, because it even went over like the portal, because I think one of them, like someone tried to teleport away from the black shit and it didn't work. The goop like went over the portal, like it covered, I can't explain it, like it covered the portal too. So whatever the substance was, it would like, you couldn't escape it almost, like you couldn't just jump through a portal and escape it, because it was like going, it was on to, I don't know, it was weird to explain. You got to watch the episode and you would see what, if you pay pay attention to this scene, that scene where they get sucked into the goop, like by the black goop or whatever, you'd see before it happened, you see it like over the portal. You'd see what I mean if you watch the episode.
Prime appears, explaining that Diane was wiped from all existence by using the Omega device, a weapon that Rick Prime created. In this video, Rick Prime also mentions that he will allow one of the Ricks to recover his Diane. The only thing they have to do is survive each other. Even though Rick C-137 warns the others that Rick Prime is lying, the Ricks proceed to kill each other, and chaos begins. However, Rick and the Mortys work together and advance to the final round.
How is the worst turd a pizza?
Which is nothing more than another trap. The prison starts to catch fire, but Rick manages to get them to safety by opening a portal that he managed to create by joining his portal gun with Evil Morty's portal gun, and Rick Prime's black portal fluid. Back at the laboratory, Rick uses the black fluid to locate Rick Prime.
So that's what it is. It's black portal fluid. So whatever that shit was, it was even covering the green portal fluid we see that Rick uses.
Bingo, he finds him. Rick decides that he's going to go kill him by himself and finally get revenge. Evil Morty warns Morty that letting Rick kill Rick Prime will not end well for him emotionally, and convinces him to go after Rick together. Meanwhile, Rick manages to reach Rick Prime's base after avoiding some traps, but gets infuriated when he realizes it starts to catch fire. But Rick all the way there, he's portal gun, and Rick Prime's black portal fluid. Back at the laboratory.
Why didn't they take whatever this is out? Because you got to think, right? Look how, I mean, this might be a clone, right? Because we saw Rick had a protocol for if he ever died and he switched his conscience over, it's like a different clone in a different dimension or whatever. I feel like they should have low-key, because they didn't, they kind of continued. They should have taken this guy out, because what if or not Rick Prime, Rick C-137, what if Rick Prime has a protocol for that too, right? Where if something he encounters really gets him, he always has this decoy or whatever, he has other decoys set up. They should have low-key taken this one out. I know I'm just overreaching. What I'm saying, it's important, you got to pay attention to detail, because I don't think they ever. Well, I don't know if they blow up his base or what. I don't know if they blow up his this specimen, this copy, whatever this guy is. But you never know, because they could use this. They could use this exact one to bring him back, in the show or type shit. You never know. Because I don't believe they ever showed this one getting taken care of, because this is where they just meet up. Then they all take off to go fight the actual Rick Prime.
Rick uses the black fluid to locate Rick Prime, and bingo, he finds him. Rick decides that he's going to go kill him by himself and finally get revenge. Evil Morty warns Morty that letting Rick kill Rick Prime will not end well for him emotionally, and convinces him to go after Rick together. Meanwhile, Rick manages to reach Rick Prime's base after avoiding some traps, but gets infuriated when he realizes that the Mortys followed him all the way there. Anyway, Rick Prime appears, and an epic battle begins. Rick, Morty, and Evil Morty join forces, all against Rick Prime. During the battle, Morty gets knocked out, and Evil Morty seizes the opportunity. He manages to incapacitate Rick Prime after distracting him and pretending to be his
Evil Morty is also goated for that. He literally put down Rick Prime. He put down Rick Prime.
Original grandson. What a move. Evil Morty takes Rick Prime to a different room to scan his mind, and in that way pass all the information to Rick's mind and revive him. Rick C-137 got his ass handed to him during that fight, by the way. After getting brought back, C-137 finally gets his revenge on
I was wrong. Evil Morty did fry all his backups or his copies. I do remember that now. I was wrong.
Rick Prime, beating him to death with his bare hands. So there is no way he can come back. In what may be one of the most brutal scenes I have ever seen on TV. And I've seen Invincible. Meanwhile, Evil Morty destroys the Omega device.
Whether you've got dogs that leap, or dogs that herd, or dogs who love to track a bird, AKC is here.
And it seems like that just about means each and every loose thread is tied up. The day is safe, and Rick's big goal is finally complete. After this, Rick and Morty return home. But while Morty celebrates the defeat of Rick Prime, Rick feels strange. He realizes that he has just lost his purpose in life. What should he do now? Let's continue with episode 6, Rick Fending Your Mort. Rick is still depressed after having defeated Rick Prime and losing his purpose. So Morty, in his attempt to cheer him up, decides to use his Morty adventure cards. These cards allow Morty to choose his own adventure, to which Rick cannot oppose, since he himself sealed them. Rick freaks out to see so many cards, and accuses Morty of having forged his stamps, so he decides to request an audit with the cosmic entity, which observes everything. This cosmic entity, going by the name Observer, shows them clips of their adventures, so that Rick can evaluate them, count them, and determine whether or not they're part of Morty's cards. However, they soon realize that the Observer is showing fake clips to make them fight. So they decide to get rid of him. They pay him what was promised and make him leave. But the Observer sees everything they're up to. So he pretends to leave and then returns to show them more clips.
That burrito looks pretty
The whole family is annoyed by this, especially Morty, who goes to confront him. However, by accident, Morty causes the Observer to be run over by a truck and dies. Rick and Morty are brought to a court where they're tried for the Observer's death. But somehow, Rick manages to trick them, gaining control of their technology. This allows him to display clips of everyone in the court doing bad things, which makes everyone start a fight. The perfect escape plan. Back in the garage, Rick apologizes to Morty for not believing in him, and thanks him for giving his life a new purpose, to go on more adventures together.
This may as well be our real daughter because she's...
Next up is episode 10, Fear No Mort.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty are exploring the Carnival of Nightmares, but quickly get bored as they realize it's not scary at all. While they're talking about how bad it is, a mysterious man interrupts them, stating that he knows a place that's actually scary, and decides to take them there. It turns out this spooky place is a Denny's restaurant. Rick and Morty think it's all a hoax until one of the waiters mentions the fear hole in the men's bathroom. In the bathroom, Rick and Morty not only find the hole, but also a TV.
Well, it's definitely a hole.
Rick turns it on, and a video appears explaining how the fear hole works. Basically, the hole manifests your biggest fears so you can work on them. And if you manage to conquer them, you must leave your photo on the bulletin board as a reminder of this experience. Rick thinks it's kinda stupid, so he tells Morty not to do it, but Morty jumps into the hole, making Rick go after him. Back at home, Morty and Rick act as if nothing has happened. Till out of nowhere, a portal appears in the middle of the room where Diane comes out. Everyone's shocked, especially Beth. However, Rick and Morty know it's not real. Diane is clearly a product of the hole. Rick and Morty wonder why they're still inside, but Rick soon finds out. His theory is that Morty's biggest fear is that Rick will swap him for Diane and will no longer need him. Morty thinks it's absurd, so they decide to spend time with Diane to test it out. However, things between Diane and Rick don't seem to be going well, so Morty comes up with another theory. Rick's biggest fear is getting a second chance with her and blowing it. Going back to his original plan, Morty has to conquer his fear in order to get out of the hole, so Rick continues his efforts to get Diane. Morty begins to worry about Rick, because spending too much time with Diane is literally killing him. Rick looks worse and worse every time. However, if they want to leave the hole, Morty still must conquer his fear, which he still has no clue what it is. So Morty decides to return to the Denny's restaurant for answers. His biggest fear is not being accepted. Finally, Morty knows what to do to conquer his fear. Meanwhile, Rick continues to enjoy his time with Diane until he realizes that Morty is conquering his fear. So he goes to confront him, since he doesn't want to leave Diane. However, upon seeing Morty very sick, Rick decides to help him to conquer his fear. Rick and Morty manage to make it out of the hole, or so they think. Apparently, that wasn't Morty's fear, so the hole brings them back. Rick and Morty, both confused, begin to argue. They fall into an infinite loop where they leave and re-enter the hole, until Morty finally does it. Morty realizes that his biggest fear is that Rick will never tell him that he's irreplaceable. Turns out that Rick never jumped into the hole to save him. All this time, Morty was alone.
Say, that was also mind-blowing, too, that Rick actually never came down and jumped with you, like, with his grandson type shit. But then, see, it's kind of good he didn't, because I don't want to know Rick's biggest fear. Or maybe you do. That could be another episode. Because they got to conquer, you have to conquer your fear. So what is Rick's biggest fear? You know what I'm saying? What would he have to conquer? And would that have made this episode, I think this would have made that episode a lot different. I just really wonder, and it's probably for the better of Morty, you know what I'm saying, that they didn't jump down together, because Rick would have to conquer his fear. And I just wonder what does Rick fear? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's just a question I have. And just like, I didn't think about it like watching the episode, but now I'm thinking about it. What would his biggest fear maybe be? Let me know in the comments if you got any ideas, because I certainly don't.
Alone with his fear.
Hey, how was it? Was it spiders? Oh.
And that is the end of the series up till this point. Wow, what an arc. Everything in regards to Rick Prime was absolutely insane, and I'm impressed the show managed to keep me interested after they killed off such an important character.
Right?
I hope you enjoyed this recap as much as I did. And if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what your favorite parts of the show were. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. See ya!
Alright, let's see. Alright, that's gonna do it, guys. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the video, Brett. Peace.